Joining me now is Sky News contributor and host of On the Couch with Claire podcast, Claire Rowe, and Sky News contributor Teena McQueen. Hi to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Look, let's start with Qantas here. Claire, you know, the board, they've made this huge review. Fantastic. Good. I'm glad a review's finally been done. But they still need to approve any activist activity. So does that not defeat the purpose of actually butting out of our lives? What do you think?
Well, it's certainly having a bet each way, isn't it? And I'm actually really surprised that that wasn't the case beforehand. I mean, that's what I took out of this, that this was a complete, unilateral captain's call, the power that Joyce must have had. I just assumed that he went to the board. The board of Qantas isn't that big, I think. It's under a dozen people. So really, it's not a huge check and balance there anyway. But you're right. I mean, the board is there for one purpose, and that is to hold the company accountable to drive profits for shareholders. That's their job. And if you're a shareholder sitting here or a customer buying tickets and you're sitting thinking that they're debating across a board table which social justice issue that they should get onto this week, I mean, you'd just be appalled. So I'm just surprised it wasn't there to begin with. And if it's the same board now that couldn't stand up to Joyce, it doesn't leave you with much faith going forward either.
It certainly doesn't. I mean, this is what happens when companies engage in activism. You lose customers. Yeah. And this is exactly what's happened with Qantas over the past 12 months. Teena, what do you make of Alan Joyce having his bonus slashed by a mere $9 million?
Not enough for me, Danica. This is a guy who was CEO, put his hand out for money right back to 2014, where he was begging for funds. Thank God Tony Abbott had the guts to say no to him, but did land a lot of money from Morrison. But he had total control. But thankfully, there has been some refreshments in the board. There are some new appointees. So I think it's a good thing. And I think it's a good thing for shareholders as well to cut back that salary. I also think it's a warning to other woke companies, maybe not to engage so much in activism, because Joyce was really nothing but a political activist, to be honest. You know, I'd met him a number of times and he certainly didn't hide where he stood in the political arena. So, yeah, a good job it's cut. He won't like it, but he still walks away with a massive...
I was going to say, if this governance report was so damning on him, why is he getting any bonus? Isn't a bonus for improving a company?
Well, I think it'd be a contractual thing.
It must be a contractual thing.
But a lot of people are saying that's not enough. 14 million's pretty good.
I think he's done quite well out of this for somebody who completely wrecked the company, really, and was grandstanding,
and it might have
as you
cost
said.
more if they had to break that contract and say you're not getting a dime. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. Look, I do hope it does actually lead to some meaningful change, but certainly it doesn't fill you much hope with the fact that the board still needs to be consulted.
I'm sick of being welcomed to the country.
Oh, you know, it's ridiculous. Every time you land, welcome to country. No, I don't want to be welcomed into the country in which I live in.
But everyone has to tell them that, which is what I do, is I'm getting off the plane and everyone's got to send that message back
exactly.
to get to the board.
Absolutely.
That's how we fight back.
I completely agree. Now, look, let's talk about the new Muslim vote political movement. It's claiming that Labor is complicit in the deaths of tens of thousands of Gazan civilians. Now, as part of Sky News' special event airing this Tuesday night called Clash of the Faiths, The Fight for Muslim Votes, Gaeth Krayem, the spokesperson, has claimed Labor is taking the Islamic community for granted. Here's a bit of what he said.
Politically, people need to get used to the fact that the Muslim community is now politically awake and it's going to be mobilised, it's going to be organised. We've all vested our time and interest in a system which we thought would stand up based on principles. We've seen a government fail to do the minimum things that it actually can do to stop what's going on. We did a survey earlier this year and 70% of our respondents had said they'd always voted Labor. Of those 70%, though, 95% said they will not vote Labor next time.
Claire, my concern here is that you could have a situation where you've got independents running on a pro-Gaza platform, not a pro-Australia platform, not putting the interests of Australians first. Do you think this movement is a genuine threat to Labor?
I think it is. I mean, it was for Keir Starmer in the UK. He lost a couple of seats to Muslim independents. They have a first-past-the-post system, a bit different to our preferential voting. But even with our system, it absolutely could take primary votes off Labor. I think there's about 3% of voters are Muslim in the country. It doesn't sound that much, but they're very, concentrated in certain seats. Tony Burke's seat in southwest Sydney, highly populated with immigrants and Lebanese Muslim community. And you're right, it will be run now. These groups, these pro-Muslim groups who are saying, of course, they're not a political party, but they will endorse and support independence. And so, of course, they're just another Teals who are saying we're not a party, but of course it looks like a party and it acts like a party and, it is. And so what we're looking at potentially is a minority government on either side that is ruled by, puppet strings with, we've got the Greens and now Muslim independents and Teals. And so there will be enormous pressure put on the government on either side, but particularly Labor, to further push their view on things, as you said, not Australian issues, but overseas issues. And these particular Muslim groups are there, they say, to educate their communities on which members of parliament are coming out in a pro-Palestinian way and teaching them which ones to vote for or not. And so absolutely the whole issue is about pro-Palestine, not Australian policies or issues.
Absolutely, and that's the problem here because, Teena, Muslim Votes Matter wants Labor to break with Western allies, send a message to Israel, expel the Israeli ambassador. They want to introduce sanctions on Israeli goods. They're saying they want boycotts. Why on earth would Australia go against its allies?
It's a very dangerous path. All those things you mentioned are absolutely frightening. But look, I would urge all Australians to back Australians and back the party. I mean, we're heading into treacherous economic waters. It's going to get very, very tough, particularly under Labor. And seriously, I urge everyone to vote what's going to be best for their children, their hip pocket, and keep this faith-based politics out of it, because particularly this Islamic vote is, you see what has happened in the UK, and I don't want to go down that path.
Yes.
In Australia.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that. And
why would we upset our allies, such as Israel and others? It's crazy.
I mean, Israel's been a long-standing ally of ours as well. Why would we want to then abandon them at this point? Though, I mean, Labor's been questionable on this matter, but still.
Israel didn't start this dogfight.
Exactly.
October 7.
And that's the problem here. Well, look, don't forget to watch Clash of the Faiths, The Fight for Muslim Votes, this Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. on Sky News. Now, look, the Victorian Premier is at it again, poking her finger into everyone's lives. This time, Jacinta Allen wants to ban households from using compostable plastic bags in their food waste bins and instead use paper bags. Now, honestly, the thought of fruit, meat leaking through a paper bag gives me anxiety, seriously.
My kitchen's bad enough. I don't need that as well. I'm not the cleanest, and that's just it. They're compostable, though. I thought they're compostable. Look, part of me gets it. They're like, they must have bins at these facilities that are just all mixed, and that's hard, and we're not really, But at the same time, I go, come on, if it's a compostable bag and I'm doing my pit and I'm separating as much as I can, I'm not going to use my hands or a bucket or a paper bag.
Oh, great. I mean, now they're going after compostable bags.
Yeah. My one joy in life is every week buying 4 bottles of Coke from Woolworths. When they go to put them in those plastic, in the paper bags, I walked out one. The bum fell out of the bag. I was so angry. It's just ridiculous.
Did you tell them?
I certainly did. What do you think? I went straight back in and told them and replaced my Coca-Cola.
I'm not surprised, Teena McQueen, but it's true, though, that they're hopeless.
There's far bigger issues in Victoria. I mean, look at their debt. It drives me spare.
I completely agree. Now, look, work from home. This has been a huge debate this week, of course, after the New South Wales Premier ordered public servants back to the office. And now it's being revealed work from home has resulted in the rise of the mouse shuffle, it's been called. I didn't know about this until today. It's a trend among remote employees where workers feel the need to fake visible productivity by constantly moving their mouse so as not to appear inactive during work hours. I mean, if that is not a warning sign to get back to work, then that's it there. Claire, I mean, people moving their mouse to make it look like they're doing
It sounds
work.
like a dance.
It does. It sounds
like a trend.
Tell you?
Well, I mean, in some ways it tells you they're not doing much work. But on the other hand, I mean, I'm a bit conflicted with this. I do think people need to get back to the office, right? I'm a psychologist. Our mental health, we have to get back to connection, right? I also think for our mental health, a day a week where you can be a bit more flexible and you can pick the kids up and then work at night, I think that's improving people's choices there. And it's very hard to put the genie back now. People are used to this and it's very hard to get people back to that office. And really it should be out on results, right, and productivity. It's going to be easy to tell in most sectors if people aren't completing deadlines and projects and work. And people just get really resentful that they need to keep moving that mouse. I mean, in most offices here and elsewhere, people aren't over the top of you watching every 5 seconds.
No, that's true.
I mean, meet your deadlines, get your work in, and absolutely, if you're not doing that, you know, the boss should be able to pull you up and say, hey, get back into the office.
It's such a shame in the city, though, where businesses have suffered. The coffee shop, the sandwich shops. It's not rocket science. I think Chris Minns has made a bold statement here, and good on him for doing this, because they have to get back into work. It's as simple as that. Make them do it, and he's going to get pushback from the unions. But it's very important to get that working society and the life, the vibrancy back in the city of those city workers.
But also, I don't think you can foster a proper working environment when you've got half of your staff working from home, half in the office. How can you actually be there with your team and inspire your team if you've got staff everywhere? I don't agree with it. I think Chris Minns is absolutely
Get out of your pyjamas.
Get out of your pyjamas. Seriously, stop working in your pyjamas till midday. It's ridiculous. Now, we've got a date. The ABC will host a presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris on September 10. Trump actually wants 3 debates, but Kamala Harris isn't too keen.
Madam Vice President, Donald Trump agreed to 3 debates. Will you be participating in all 3?
I've always been on record. I am looking forward to debating Donald Trump, and we have a date of September 10th. I hear he is finally committed to it. I'm looking forward.
What about the other 2?
Let's make sure we get this photo of everyone. Look right here, right there.
Well, maybe this is why Kamala Harris seems to repeat her scripts over and over.
It really is good to be back in Wisconsin. It is so good to be back in Michigan. Listen, let me tell you, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. And listen, I am clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state. I took on perpetrators of all kinds. I took on perpetrators of all kinds and had a summer job at McDonald's. I had a summer job at McDonald's. So hear me when I say, hear me, Detroit, when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. I know Donald Trump's type.
Yes, and that was the moment we were burdened by what has been. Claire, every speech is a rerun. It's a rehash. We know she loves repeating her sentences. Do you think this is why she won't do 3 debates?
She has to do that. She has to be highly controlled. But there's no other option. She has to debate, and we're going to have one. I mean, if anyone kind of had that excuse not to debate, I suppose it was actually Biden, because we kind of had 4 years of Trump, 4 years of Biden, and voters could absolutely just compare, you know.
But the one she wants is so controlled. It's clearly going to just favour her, as Trump said. And he had a point. He didn't agree to debate her. He agreed to debate Biden. But he's going to do this. But I think there should be more and more flexible environments than controlled like Kamala wants it. But, oh, what a burger queen she is. If I hear one more time, she worked, you know.
She worked at McDonald's. She worked just in case we didn't hear it.
We have to be able to see politicians in, you know, ad-lib flight. This is the woman who is going to apparently, you know, mix with the world stage of people. We have to be able to just see her. She's not.
She's just not.
No, she's not.
But what are we going to do? Just hide her away? Well, that's what they're going to do.
Well, that's what they're trying to do.
Because it worked well for Biden.
Correct.
Well, I mean, gosh. But the thing is, she hasn't even done one interview since she became the nominee. She's hiding. Now, we know that Joe Biden struggled without his auto cue. He was absolutely hopeless without it. But Kamala Harris is exactly the same. Yeah. She needs an auto cue to be able to be... Well, clearly, I mean, she's got to tell us that she worked at McDonald's and everything else. I know Donald Trump's type. It's the same old lines. But I can't wait for September 10, personally. I reckon that... Bring it on. Bring it on. Bring
the popcorn.
I completely agree. Claire Rowe, Teena McQueen, good to have you both on. Thank you so much for joining me on this Friday evening.